Good evening. My name is Keith and today I'll be talking about the effects of technology. Since the Industrial Revolution, technology has been constantly advancing and has made life easier and more convenient for everyone. However, the consequences of this development have not always been positive ones. My claim tonight is that as technology continues to progress, people will become less able to perform manual tasks. This induced lack of skill is present in art, architecture, and the workforce. My first claim tonight is that artisans will lose their craft skills because of technology. Second, people in the present day lack the ability to design and build as they used to in the past. And third, the workforce is being simplified by technology to the point of making skilled labor obsolete. In reference to my first point, that artisans will lose their craft skills due to technology, modern paintings are not as realistic and do not give the attention to detail that pre-industrial paintings do. Modern art is characterized by experimentation with media, and since technology-based media has been the most convenient and flexible, it now dominates the modern art scene. However, working through computers introduces a new filter between the artist and the artwork, and that filter inevitably extracts some creativity, some meaning, and almost all traditional artistic mastery. Vernon Miner, an art historian and professor at the University of Colorado, explains that classic art is sufficient, logical, and legible. For example, Raphael's School of Athens fresco portrays a real image in a creative way with an obvious mastery of hand-drawn lines, shadows, emotion, and meaning. Sculptures also represent a digression due to technology. An example is Michelangelo's famous statue of David. He was able to chisel by hand this perfect sculpture from a solid piece of stone. This was possible, as Vernon Miner explains, because the artist has beauty in his head first and it injects it into the stone through his creative capacity. With the use of technology, perfect accuracy can be accomplished, but inherent essence and beauty will always be missing because digital media has no understanding of such concepts. These elements that define timeless pieces of art can only be acquired through manual skill and creativity that is being lost because of technology. Not only art, but architecture has also been negatively influenced because of technology. People in the present day lack the ability to design and build as they did in the past. Looking at how architecture has changed over time, it has become more simplistic. In most cases, you can't tell the purpose of a building simply by looking at its structure. In the past, a bank looked like a bank, an office looked like an office, and a market looked like a market. Because drawing skills are being lost, designing through computer software simplifies the process behind effective design. And as a result, buildings today are much more generic and non-specific, and they lose meaning. Matthew Frederick, an urban designer, architect, professor of architecture at Cambridge University, and an author, explains that being non-specific in an effort to appeal to everyone usually results in reaching no one. Furthermore, because of the spread of technology, architectural facade finishes and detailing that used to be made by hand are now being mass-produced in factories. Gwendolyn Wright, an architectural historian, states that factory-produced finished work for the house facades are cut to resemble fish scales or snowflakes or elegant floral designs. Since it is much faster and convenient to mass produce overly elaborate products, the craft of making them by hand is becoming a lost art. It's understood that different time periods call for different means of production, but completely eliminating the individual human effort creates architecture that is superficial and meaningless. When it was all done by hand, as Johann Winkelmann, an art historian, explains, it represented noble simplicity and quiet grandeur, important elements of architecture that aren't really seen anymore because of technology. My third point is that the workforce is being simplified by technology to a point of making skilled labor obsolete. Fast food chains such as McDonald's and Taco Bell make preparing food as simple as pushing a few buttons. According to Eric Schlosser, the author of Fast Food Nation, fast food chains produce their food in factories and ship it out nationwide for simple preparing and serving. Because tasks like this are so easy, no manual skill is required, and as a result, no manual skill is acquired. Schlosser goes on to note that the top 3 fast food corporations now employ about 3.7 million people worldwide and open new fast food restaurants every 2 hours. At this rate, there are many young people who fail to acquire useful manual skills because of technological development. In conclusion, the advancement of technology limits and decreases the manual capacities of society. These negative results are present in art, architecture, and everyday jobs. Artisans are losing their mastery, designers are creating more simplistic structures, and manual labor is becoming obsolete in the workforce. It's true that changing times require new methods for old tasks, but this technological process seems to be a recipe for a more superficial society. Thanks.
Keith, you've got a very clear statement of your claim and a nice setup of the secondary points, so it's easy to follow. I think you need to develop a controversy a little bit more, some of the things that are missing. You make the inference that because some of this stuff is done with technology that it is it's replacing manual labor, but I don't hear any information about a lack of artisans. I haven't heard that there's a shortage of painters or sculptors. I haven't heard that, I mean, you in essence assume that because something is mass produced that therefore people aren't developing that particular skill. But you know, that's a huge inference. To say that it's done one way means that it's not being done the other way. I don't think that you can reach that conclusion. Now, if you had some data, for instance, about the number of students who are graduating from art school declining, or the frequency with which art that is produced by hand is no longer sought after or seen as valuable, then I would say, okay, then I can see a little bit of correlation here. But I think you're making an assumption here that's a little bit problematic. I think you kind of explained the concept very nicely, but there are a couple of missing points in the warrant there. Let me see. You had some good illustrations. Like I said, the biggest thing that's missing is that there's automatically a trade-off between developing a technology to do something and a loss of that skill at a manual level. For instance, the notion that 3 million people being employed in the fast food industry because they're simply putting food together instead of preparing it themselves, that means that we have 3 million fewer chefs out there. I think that's a huge inferential leap, and I can't imagine that that's really something that anybody would see is sustainable. And you're on the brink of a value claim in a lot of places. The notion, you've got one quote there, you know, noble simplicity and quiet grandeur, and I'm going, yeah, this is an evaluative statement here, the notion that it fits one way and that's better in some way, shape, or form. I think that you're really treading some water there that is problematic. There was one other thing that jumped out in my head. Oh, the causality of the simple design that you mentioned. Is that causality because of technical developments, or is it simply because that's what public tastes have turned to? I think you've got a cause-effect claim yourself that you present that suggests that it's really the second rather than the first, and that's in your own argument. All right, thank you.